So my second month in the business, I worked another 80 hours. I sponsored 10 more people. So I put in 20 people my first 2 months, and I had a beat-up car. I had clothes that when I showed up, you wonder where I got them. Right? They told me I had to dress nice. I didn't have nice clothes. I worked all day as a cop, or all night as a cop. Usually I just wore my uniform, and then during the day I'd wear a no shirt and a pair of cut-off jeans and my work belt. I didn't have nice clothes. He says, you got to wear something nice. I said, Dan, I don't have anything nice. Find what you can. So I had a pair of pants. A pair of pants are the same ones that John Travolta wore in Saturday Night Fever. I'm serious. The bell bottoms were about this big. They were called cheeks because they were so tight in the cheeks you could read the date on a buffalo nickel in my back pocket. I mean, that's how tight they were. You know, I had a black blazer. The collar on it was when little lapels were in. I just took a pair of scissors and cut that sucker down. Right? I had a tie with a mermaid on it, the only one I owned. I had a belt that said Jesus on it, so I couldn't take my jacket off because I didn't want to offend anybody. I had a pair of shoes I graduated 9th grade in, and that's what I showed up to your house. And I said, man, if you get in this, you can be like me. And they're all looking at me. Oh, dude, are you serious? So I put in 20 people my first 2 months. You know why? Because I believed. And you know what? They believed in me. People join you in business. We have an incredible product, an incredible opportunity. But trust me when I tell you, people join you. They join you. That's your big advantage. They joined me because they believed I was going to do it. How many people taught your kids to ride a bike? Remember teaching your kid to ride a bike? My oldest son, Taylor, he's 29 now. But when he was a little kid, he goes, Daddy, I got to get my training wheels off. Joe down the street has, right? He's competitive. Right, so we're there taking his little training wheels off, and I'll never forget, he had the most beautiful blue eyes, and he's looking up at me, and here's what he kept saying, Daddy, do you think I can do it? Do you think I can do it? And I go, Taylor, you got it, bro, no problem, we're going to do this, right? So let me tell you something, he didn't believe he could ride the bike, he believed in his dad. So we'd get him on the bike, right, and you'd put your hands around him, and you'd run a little bit, and you take your hands off, and oh, Dad, I'm going to die, right? You grab him again, right? You grab him again, you run a little bit further, and you take your hands off, and he's going like this. Y'all done this with your kids? And then eventually you take your hands off, and they take off down the road. And they don't come back till they're 18 years old. They're just gone, right? Okay? But you know what? He believed in me. When you sit down across from someone and share your business, are you believable? Wow. Are you believable? Our business is great. But promise me, I promise you, they got to see you. You know, in the next 24 years, 10 months, I only sponsored 10 more people. I only brought in 30 people my entire time in the Amway business. 30 people, that was it. And 20 of them my first 2 months. And it took me another 24 years. Over that next 24 years, I sponsored another 10. Wow. And do you know of those first 20 that I sponsored, 7 of them became multimillionaires in the Amway business? Because you know what? I got in and I shared them. I showed them when I was scared to show them. I showed them when I didn't know if they'd get in I didn't have an answer. I just went and I turned over a card. You know, this business is like having 2 decks of cards face down. And if I say to this young man right here, find me 8 aces. Find me 8. You know what he's got to do? He's got to turn the cards over. And so many of us want to turn 2 cards. I didn't find an ace. Oh, shoot. So we get emotionally distraught. And our business, instead of going here, it's just we're sitting around just having pity parties, right? Asking people to join. Want to be in my pity party? No, not today. Because what? And so we turn over another card. And here's what some of you do. You turn over a 2 and you think it's an ace. You try to make it an ace. You're an ace. I'm a 2. You're an ace, right? And some of you, I got a good clue for some of you. If you're riding a dead horse, dismount. Okay, get off. Right? Some of you are riding these horses, you go, we're going silver. And they're like dead. Their tongue's hanging out, flies on it. And you're whipping them to the finish line and they ain't involved. But you called them about the 15th time this week to think maybe they've changed their mind. Go find people that want to win. Go find aces. I learned that so quick, and I had a big heart, and I had a lot of enabling problems because my mother was so abused. I was rescuing, all the rescuing. So when I got in the business, and I'm teaching you something right now, you guys, don't get in this business to rescue people. Let your people struggle. I sent out a text to my leaders the other day. I said, I don't want weak leaders. I want leaders that struggle and are tough, because people that won't struggle are wimps, and they don't make great leaders. I'm sorry, it's true. So you're going to go through struggle. But if your why's big enough, it doesn't matter. If Joe and I tonight said, hey, we're going to drive to Vegas tomorrow, and we took off tomorrow morning, we started driving to Vegas, and let's say somebody's waiting in Vegas, Jared, or somebody's waiting in Vegas for us to show up there. And let's say we get 100 miles out of LA and there's a detour. And it's about a 2-hour detour. Do we stop and say, well, we ain't going to Vegas, right? Because we have a detour. No, we hit the detour, and it takes, you know why? Because we said we're going to Vegas. Some of you you haven't figured out where you're going yet. You haven't set the goal on it. You haven't put it out of your mouth. I'm going bronze on this day. I'm going gold on this day. I'm going silver on this day. You know why? Because it's okay, because then you can't fail. If you don't put a date on it, then it's like, well, I'll be there someday. That is not a day of the week. I'll be there someday. Someday's today. It's today. But if we don't put goals on it, if we didn't say we're going to Vegas, right? But if we're going there, then we're going there. Some of you ain't decided yet. Some of your dreams are just not big enough. I'm sorry, I'm just telling you. Man, I had to dig out some crazy dreams. And you know what some of you do? You go apologize to people about your dream. Well, my wife and I are going to be free. You don't really know if you want to tell them, because that's pretty scary. It's a pretty big dream. And then you want approval from them. You tell people things because you want approval. And they don't give it to you, you get discouraged. Nobody needs to give you approval on your dream. Not even your parents. Not even anybody you know. You don't need to get permission to fulfill what the purpose is of what you were designed to do in your life. You don't need anybody's permission to do that. Nobody. And when you decide that, then you're not going to get dented by every squall that comes your way. And every person that tries to steal your dream. Because when you're going, you're going. Nothing's going to stop you. You know what? The whole thing, listen to this. Your dream needs to get intense. You have children? How old? 18? What's your name, Mark? Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say Mark came home from work, turned around the corner, and he drove up to his house, and it was on fire. His house is on fire. And he goes driving up there, and he's like scared to death, right? And so the firemen say, hey, no, it's okay. Your son's out. We don't have any problems, but you can't go in. Everything's going to burn up. I'm sorry. All your pictures, all your furniture. Mark ain't going in for the pictures. He's not going in for the car. He's not going in for any material things, right? He's not going in the fire. It's going to burn his house up. Let me change one scenario. The fireman looks at Mark and says, your son's in the house. Is Mark going in? Yes. Your dream has got to be the kid in the fire. If it's not the kid in the fire, we're standing there watching everything just burn up. So you've got to take that dream and make it the kid in the fire. What is that for you? I knew what it was for me. My dad left when I was 7. When my first son was born, Taylor, he's born, and when I got in Amway in 1979, in 32 months, my income was $100,000 a month. In 32 months in that business. Because I knew I wanted to have kids. And I knew I wanted to be a full-time dad. And I didn't want to have to leave and say, hey, somebody else take care of them. Somebody else coach their teams. Somebody else do it. I had this. My kid in the fire was being a dad. And being a full-time pop. And be able to do anything we want. Like go leave and travel the world for 1 year. And ride elephants in Bangkok, Thailand. And play golf in St. Andrews, Scotland. And go to Africa and Honduras and go on mission field all over the world and take the kids with us and just hang out together. That was my dream. That was a kid in the fire. You think a stupid no was going to keep me from that? You think somebody not believing in my dream was going to stop that? Ain't no way. No way in the world, because I believed. I believed in the dream and I believed in me. Did I have a right to when I look at my past? No. Where I came from, should I have been extremely successful? Yes, because I had the DNA. And I knew I had to sing a song. And that song had to be sung. And it had to get out. And some of you tonight know exactly what I'm talking about. When I talk about that DNA, when I talk about that time, and sometimes you're by yourself and you just go, someday I'm going to do something great. I'm not sure what it is. I didn't expect it to be secret. I didn't expect it to be multi-level marketing. But you know what, God, I think I'm at the right place. Because you know what? Here's a great chance to go give my life away. Let me tell you when you get real strong. Let me tell you when you get fearless, when you realize this, it's not about you. It's not about you. I went to Rick Warren's church for a year, and Rick Warren used to start every Sunday morning at his church and say this, it's not about you. Because see, when it's not about you, then you don't fear failure, because it's not about you. When it's not about you, you don't fear rejection, because it's not about you. When it's not about you, you don't fear making the phone call, because it's not about you. See, we're selfish people. Our whole life is about us. How did I become a multimillionaire? How did I build this huge business? Because it wasn't about me. And every day I got up, some of you got to realize that, every day you have divine appointments and you walk right by them. People that have been just getting ready to hear what you have to say. We walk right by them. I say you got to wake up alert to life. Alert to life is waking up every day and saying, okay, God, you got somebody for me to talk to, and I'm fired up where they are, and I don't know who they are yet, but I'm going to find them. And you find them in the craziest places. Places you never imagined finding them. Because it's not about you. And you got to find the right people. There's the right people and the wrong people. Are the wrong people bad? No, they're just not the right people. And so many of us try to convince the wrong people to be the right people. We can't do that, you guys. This is good information for you. Think about this last week. How many people you tried to convince to get in this business? How many times you tried to convince them again to see you the 15th time and they've said no 15 times? Okay? You know why? Because you don't want to go find somebody else. You know why? Because it's about you and not about them. We're self-centered people. You want to live a life of significance? Then go out and find and make that mantra. It's not about me. It's about others. It's about making a difference in others' life, because what you all have, it's a secret business. It's a business that these incredible families started with the strongest leadership in the industry I've ever seen. But you know what we got? We got this beautiful wrapped up silver package. And every day I get up in the morning, I just grab it and I just take it for the day, because I'm going to share it with somebody. And if somebody wanted to give you a gift and you presented it to them and they said, no thanks, I don't want your gift, does it change the gift? No. Does it change the value of it? No. Absolutely not. But you start believing less in the gift when they start saying no to it. You start questioning the gift. You start wondering if this is really legit. See, you start doubting yourself. You start doubting what you have. What you have is not affected by who says no to it. What you have is not affected by the fact that your buddy didn't get in. Because where are you going? What's that kid in the fire for you? What's that why? The squalls are going to... I remember Jerry Falwell once, I heard him say this. He said, you're either in the midst of a struggle, coming out of one, or you're going to have one tomorrow. And that's how we live our lives. Your struggles are not going to stop because you decide to become a crown in secret. Your wife isn't going to have a perfect relationship with you because you decide to be a crown. Right? Your kids aren't going to stop acting up because you're going to be a crown now. You're not going to stop having challenges with your parents and different relationships because you decide to be a crown. It's all going to continue to happen. Because you know why? Those are the squalls that hit our life. And you know what squalls do in our lives? They make us stronger. So you know what? When the sea gets rough, put up your sails. That's what I had to do. That's what the people in my business did, building successful and huge businesses. They just put up the sail when the winds got tough. Some of you lower the sails when the winds get tough. It's time to raise those sails for some of you guys. Some of you know who I'm talking to tonight. I'm talking about you. Whenever I share in a group like this, I always know that there's somebody who's hearing what I'm saying. And I also know some people that'll come and they'll listen to the talk tonight, and Joe and everything went on, they'll walk out, and this just won't be for them. They'll be fine. They'll just go on living whatever life they live because they weren't really supposed to hear. When you understand that, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about significance. It's about making a difference. It's about really caring. That's how I built a huge Amway business, 80,000 people in my organization all over the world. It started from us, excited about our lives, beat up old car, clothes that made people laugh, right? Driving miles, ended up in trailer parks, places I never dreamed of, places I was glad I was a cop because I got to carry a weapon. I mean, it was like, it was crazy. But I just kept going. I just kept going. I remember meeting a guy once. I was sitting next to him in a church in Florida, and he says, what do you do anyway? I said, I'm in the Amway business. Oh, he said, I was in that. I said, you were? He said, yeah, I quit. I said, I didn't. You know, a room this size, it always kills me to think about this, but a room this size, some of you ain't coming back. And you know what kills me about that? Is because the dreams in our lives never go away. They're not going to leave us. All you're going to do is live another year looking back. You know what I like to think sometimes and ask people, when was the last time you won? You know, in our lives, a lot of us have trophies. You know, some of you were maybe great athletes. Some of you are accomplished maybe in orchestras. But you go back and we can go back to our parents' house and we can go up in the garage, in the attic, and we can pull out all these old trophies about everything we've done in our lives. And you know what kills us sometimes is when we just drive into work in the morning and realize, I'm not winning anymore. I'm just living average. And you know what? You realize when you have that DNA, average sucks. It never feels good. It just, it just makes you want to throw up a lot of the time. And you just kind of sit there and go, what am I doing? What am I doing? I wasn't designed for this. I didn't get married to make my wife struggle and work when my kids, she could be home with the kids. That's not what the plan was. You know, the day you got married, it was like for better or for worse. You know, you didn't say, babe, it's going to get pretty bad. You want to stick around? No, you promised her a lot, right? A lot of big promises. And for some of us, it's time to live up to them and it's time to fulfill them. And you guys have a most incredible opportunity right now. That's why I got back in this industry. You know, I got a call from my buddy Kai. He's standing there in the back, that Asian-looking guy down there in the end with a bald head. Okay? Very, very smart guy. You know why he's so smart? Because I taught him this business, and I'm in his downline. Who's smarter? It ain't me, okay? So, I mean, I don't know how that happened, but I got a chance to mentor him and train him in this industry, and he's one of the most incredible guys I've ever met in my life. And he calls me and says, I want you to meet Isaac Ben Shabbat. Wow. And I went because of him. And I love that guy. And I'm back in the trenches. But I can tell you something, I've spoken in domes all over the world. I spoke in Mexico City, there were 50,000 people in that auditorium, and I've never been more excited than I am tonight standing in front of you guys. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that right there. And you know why? Because Joe talked about it. Here's the advantage I've got. I've seen stadiums full. I've seen groups like this get started, and pretty soon we're in a dome. I've been there. I've seen the Matterhorn like the Walt Disney. I've had a chance to do that. And I'm seeing it for you guys. And you got to just decide you want to be there with us. You got to decide, is it worth it? But a lot of times my question is this. If you knew you couldn't fail, how big would you dream? If you knew you couldn't fail, how big would you dream? Because we spend so much of our lives afraid of failure. If you knew you couldn't, what would you dream tonight? What would you dream for your kids? What would you dads dream for your family? What would be the things that you just came into your mind that just almost blew you away because you couldn't even believe that where they came from? Audacious dreams, the big, hairy ones that you just started to share with somebody. You go, I better shut up because they're never going to believe this one. See, we've lived those dreams. My kids and my family, and seeing people in my organization. See, my greatest blessings were never the cars I drove, and I drove every fancy car there was, or the $5 million house I lived in Laguna Niguel, California. Those were never the big things. I remember sitting with my kids one night watching Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and they showed the top 10 resorts in the world, and my daughter goes, Dad, we've been to all 10 of those. Wow. Okay, that was cool, but you can't ever put a price tag on a trunk I have that I carry around with me full of letters and messages from people saying, thank you. Thank you. You believed in me when no one else did. You stood by me when no one else would. I didn't believe in this thing in the beginning. I didn't believe in the Amway business. I don't believe in Secret in the beginning, but Craig, I believe in you. You know why? Because if I believe in you, you will become what I believe you to be. I'm convinced of that with all of my heart. You want to build a big business? You want to make money by being significant? Then go find someone and just sit down across from them, walk into the attic of their life, look them in the eye, and say these words, I believe in you. I was in Las Vegas speaking at an event. This woman came up to me, 40 years old. She just looked at me and, man, I just had this passion for her. She told me her story. Her husband's out of town. He had to work out of town. She hadn't seen him in 3 months. She's raising 4 children. She just shared this thing. And when she was done, I just said, you know what, Ingrid? I believe in you. I gave her a hug. The next day on my Facebook page in the back messaging said, Craig, I'm 40 years old, and no one in my life has ever said those words to me. I just want to thank you. That's priceless. That's what you get to have as part of this group, as part of this team, is this kind of a business. 82% of the women in America today that make over $100,000 a year did it in this industry. 82%. 65% of this organization is men. I know that blows your mind. Hey, you know what my regiment was? We were broke. We were poor as children. I had a lava soap. Y'all know what lava soap is? You ever used it? It exfoliates you because it takes the skin right off your body, okay? But we had it growing up because it lasted for a long time. And when 5 boys are scrubbing, you want to last, right? For a long time. That was my skin regimen. And Kai said, you got to go meet Isaac. So I meet Isaac, and then I see it's a skincare thing. You know what? By the time I spent time with him, it didn't matter what. If he would have said, Craig, we're gonna shovel poop for about 5 years, but we're all going to be wealthy, right? And here's my passion, here's my dream. I would have said, God, Isaac, give me a shovel. I'm fired up, right? I'm serious because. But then when I see this whole thing, like Joe was saying, I mean, you get people go, oh, look, Michael Jordan's, promoting our product. We got Moses, for God's sakes, and Jesus. I mean, seriously. I mean, we don't have to worry about, oh, who's promoting your stuff? We don't hire big names because we already got them, right, promoting this. But see, the thing I understood is what I still understand from the day I got it in 1979 when I was 29 years old. I understand the same thing, the same formula. It's not about me. It's not about me. And if you can grab a hold of that tonight, and you can go out tomorrow, and you can take that list of names of the ones you've been so afraid to call because you just were kind of scared. You don't know what they'd say. They're pretty successful. Because when you judge your list like that, that's about you. Because some of these people that are so successful, I know I lived in South Orange County for 30 years. They spend money they don't have to buy things they don't want to impress people they don't even like. And that's a lot of what people do. And the person you're worried about what they think, guess what? They want to be significant. I sat across from a guy the other day that was set up a 3-way meeting with this guy. And he says, Jim here, he showed me the business. But look, Craig, I live in a beautiful home, $1 million. He goes, I got cars, I got money. And I remember when he got done, I just kind of looked him in the eye and said, let me ask you a question. How many people have you helped in life have what you have? And I said, and is that important to you? He thought for a second. He goes, yeah, it is. Never really thought about that. See, people get in for different reasons. Quit judging people. Quit feeling like you know who will and who won't until you turn the card over. And quit sitting on 2s and trying to hatch them into aces. It doesn't work that way. Go find the people that get it. Go have passion. Go care. I went to hear this lady speak once on empathy. It was a seminar on empathy, how to have empathy, how to care about people. It was a seminar on it. I'll never forget because I drove up and it was at this big auditorium, and I drove up and there were stairs there, and as I started to walk in, on the stairs was this old homeless woman. She was just laying on the stairs. She was just terrible looking, just old and just homeless and sick looking and all this stuff, and she's laying there and I could see everybody kind of looking around, feeling really uncomfortable, kind of like walking around her and kind of looking at her. Not one person got down on their knees and talked to her, helped her, tried to do it. She was just laying there. She was obviously alive, but everybody just kind of moved around her. And we all just kind of avoided her because it was about us. I went into the auditorium and I sat there and they introduced the speaker, and the homeless woman walked on stage. She walked on stage and she took off the old trench coat and the wig and a lot of the crap on her face, and she just stood there. And you could have heard a pin drop. Not one person said one thing. She could have said, thanks for coming, and walked off, and the lesson was done. For sure. Was done. For sure. But that said to me, what do I think about every day? Because so many of us, we think prospecting is going to the mall with a spear like this. Joe said I got to get 2 this week. Right? I mean, that's kind of our concept. Oh, I got to go get some. No, you got to live alert to life. You got to wake up every day saying, okay, God, where's my appointments today? They're here. Because you know what? You don't control who gets in. That's somebody else's responsibility. Yours, show them. See, I've always divided with my leaders, and I always divide my paper. God's part, my part. And don't mix them up. Okay? Oh, I'm trying to get him in. I'm sure he's going to do it. No. Share, educate him, love him, show him the opportunity, and then leave him alone. That's his part. And what you're going to learn in this business is sometimes you sow seed in the north and you harvest the south. You know, I went to a meeting every week in Yuba City. Anybody know where that? Not Yuba City. Yuma. Yeah. Brawley. If you've never been there, turn left at the 8. When it smells, you've arrived. Okay? I'm telling you. And I lived in Manhattan Beach, right next to LAX, and I drove there every week. And I'd drive there, I'd do a meeting, I'd come home in time to go to work. Never slept. I did it every single week. And do you know that group never seemed to take off? And I was spending time and effort. And then I had one group up in Sacramento, California. I went up there and did a meeting. I did another meeting a week later, another meeting a week later, and I don't think I did much more in that group. And 6 diamonds came out of that group. But you know what it was? I was sowing seed in Brawley, and I was harvesting in Sacramento, because you give. Not only is it the Dead Sea, the principle of this business, a principle that's thousands of years old, is this: you give, you receive. It's a biblical principle, thousands of years old. If you give, you receive. If you sow seed, you harvest the seed. So what do we do in this business? We're building it on a principle that's thousands of years old. That's the foundational principle of humankind. That's what we build. That's the formula of our business. How exciting is that? How much giving are you doing? How much time are you spending giving and being out there with people? You have to answer that. You have to answer that tonight. Some of you just need to get some guts. Some of you need to realize you've been called. See, one thing I know, people that want to build it can build it. People that need to build it, really build it. I always have people come up after an event like this. They say, well, if I'm not one of those DNA people that were born with that desire for greatness and significance, can I still do it? I say, sure you can. See, non-DNA people want to do it, and a lot of them can, but DNA people like me need to do it. Because you know the day you die and they put you in, if you didn't sing the song, if you didn't get it out, if you didn't take the plate that you were born with all the potential and gifts in the world and empty that plate, that you wasted a life. Because, see, we all go to anytime you go to a graveyard, there's 2 dates. There's the birth date and there's a death date, right? We don't control the birth date and we don't control the death date, but the dash in between, we own it. And so we got to determine what our dash is. What is that dash for you? And for some of you, you've been cheating it. Some of you are going to get to later in life and you're going to live this life of regret. And all you've got to do is look back and say, I could have done this. I should have done this. So tonight might be your time. Tonight might be the time for you to go, aha. Tonight might be your I get it time. That's what we do in this business. That's what I've done for 34 years. That's how I built $200,000 a month income. It was never about the money. It was about lives and changing them. And you guys having that opportunity. There's a good friend of mine named Florence Holidayʻs. She's 82 years old now. She's written 25 books. One's called Personality Plus. I use a lot with my leadership. Incredible lady. Really good friend of mine. Came in. I used to bring her in to speak. She's a Christian National Speaker Awards almost every year. She's one of the top speakers that's ever existed. She's created unbelievable amounts of authors and helped women all over the world. And she told me the story once. We were sitting down and she told me this story about her mother-in-law. She sat down with her mother-in-law and her mother-in-law said, Florence, I want to show you something. And she went over to this big trunk and pulled out these scrapbooks. And she showed them to Florence, and there were pictures of her on stage. And she could tell she was singing. And she says, what is this, Mom? He said, well, Florence, she goes, when I was in college and high school, I was a singer, an opera singer. And that was always my passion. It's kind of like I knew that was my sweet spot. I knew that's what I was supposed to do. And she said, but you know, I got married and had kids, and I kind of put the dream away, and I put all these back in this big old trunk and put it away. I said, oh, Mom, I never knew that. So she goes, it's kind of a regret, but that's kind of what happened. Well, her mother ended up getting cancer and was dying, and she had a hospice nurse that was taking care of her, and she went to see her one day, and they went in to see her, and she was really failing quickly, and so she said, I'm going to go, and I'll be back in a couple hours, and the nurse said, okay, I'll just stay, and we'll take care of her. And so she leaves, and all of a sudden, the nurse calls her up, and she says, Florence, Mom's gone. She's passed away. And she said, oh my God. She goes, what happened? Was there anything? Did she say anything at the end? Was she silent? Or she goes, Florence, it was the craziest thing. She said, I was in cooking dinner. I brought her dinner to her and set it there. She didn't eat much. She just sat there and kind of looked at it. So she said, I just left it, and I came back in, and she had her eyes closed, so I just took the dinner back and put it in the kitchen. And she said, then, Florence, it was the craziest thing I've ever heard. She says, I heard this operatic voice coming out of her bedroom. Something like I'd never heard before in my whole life. And she goes, I went in there, and she had sat up, and she was singing some operatic song. It was beautiful, Florence. And she said she quietly laid her head down and closed her eyes and passed away. Don't go to the grave with a song inside of you. You have an opportunity, one that most of you never dreamed of possible, to go out and sing that song that God implanted in your heart as a young child, that you knew like me. Crazy fat kid with all the abuse and all the crap, that someday, some way, you were going to do something great with your life. Secret, that's what we're doing. I'm proud to be part of your team. I'm humbled to be in this organization. I'm humbled to be around leaders like this. All I can say is God bless you, and thanks for letting me share with you.